In the hallowed halls of Congress, where debate and dialogue shape the future of a nation, the air is often thick with more than just anticipation. It's charged with tension, a reflection of a country grappling with deep political divides. Today, we turn our focus to a moment that epitomizes this divide, a clash not just of policies but of ideals between two prominent figures of American politics. Welcome to a pivotal scene at a recent House Judiciary Committee hearing. In one corner, we have Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana known for his firm stance on law enforcement and Second Amendment rights. Facing him across the aisle, Representative Jerry Nadler, a Democrat from New York chairing the committee. Nadler often champions a progressive cause with a particular focus on civil liberties and police reform. In the spotlight today, a heated exchange that's more than just words. It's a microcosm of a nation's ideological battle. A moment that lays bare the stark contrasts in visions for America's future between the right and the left. As we dive into this encounter, remember, this isn't just about two congressmen, it's about the fabric of American political discourse. A fabric currently stretched by differing interpretations of what America should be and how it should be governed. Let's witness firsthand how a single debate in Congress can mirror the larger conversations happening across the United States.
Mr. Chairman, there are 13 ayes and 9 noes.
The motion to table
Mr. Chairman,
passes. Yes, who seeks recognition?
I seek to strike the last. Move to strike the last word.
The ranking member is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, in this last amendment by Ms. Scanlon that was just ruled out of order, you ruled it out of order because it references a specific date. It's called in parliamentary terms a limiting amendment, which is always permitted. So this is just another example of the Republicans using obviously specious reasoning because you're afraid to vote on anything to do with January 6th. You're afraid to vote on all the things we've talked about before because your constituents might hold you responsible.
The amendment violates House Rule 16, Clause 7. Now, you can disagree with me, but you're not the chairman anymore. I'm sitting in the chair now.
Reclaiming my time. I certainly do disagree with you. And again, I repeat that the motives of the Republicans today are shameful as seeking only to avoid voting on all these different subjects that have been raised today. I yield back.
Would the gentleman yield?
Gentleman,
Would the gentleman yield?
the gentleman has yielded back. Does anyone else seek recognition?
I have an amendment, so I think Mr. Johnson wants to speak with respect to this, so I'm happy to defer to him.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. The blatant hypocrisy on display throughout this hearing is mind-numbing, Mr. Chairman. It's very disappointing that the intellectual dishonesty that is on display is shockingly abusive to the process. They understand that January 6th, Capitol Hill police officers died. They understand that federal law enforcement officers over the years have died. Actually 650 have died from gunfire over the years. 650 have died from gunfire, federal law enforcement officers. Not to mention the 7 fallen officers of the U.S. Capitol Police Department, 2 of whom have passed away within the last 2 years due to the insurrection. And so we've had law enforcement officers, federal law enforcement officers, who've given their lives to protect us. They were the ultimate displays of courage. But yet this committee doesn't have the courage to vote up or down a germane amendment that simply seeks to add federal law enforcement officers to this resolution. It's simple. The American people understand it. They're not getting thrown off track by...
As the session unfolds, the tension escalates to a critical point. Representative Johnson takes the floor, his voice a mix of frustration and resolve. He zeroes in on a particular amendment challenging Chairman Nadler's ruling. Johnson accuses the Democrats, led by Nadler, of employing specious reasoning, a strategy to avoid direct confrontation on sensitive issues. His accusation isn't just a disagreement over parliamentary procedure, it's a direct challenge to the Democrats' approach to law enforcement and policy making. This isn't just a moment of political theater, it's a manifestation of the high stakes and deep divisions that define today's political landscape. Johnson's words cut through the room, a potent reminder of the ideological battles that are constantly waged within these walls.
The reason that they're so anxious to change the language of the underlying legislation is because of the last sentence that I just read you, that last clause, because this resolution condemns calls to defund, disband, dismantle, or abolish the police. They're all on record, including the ranking member who just clutched his pearls and told me that I was out of order here.
Would the gentleman
he is
yield?
on record saying that he wanted to defund the police. I'm not going to yield. You guys have talked enough. And you've all accused us of abusing the rules. This amendment, just like the ones before it, is a blatant violation of House Rule 16, Clause 7. It is not germane because it wants to talk about January 6th and it wants to get rid of the condemnation of the call to defund police, which was their mantra here until just recently.
Would the gentleman-
Because now we've seen the results.
Mr. Chairman, will you yield
The
to a
chair
question?
does not yield. I will yield if you have an amendment. No, I'm not going to yield to a question. No. You've talked enough, Mr. Cicilline.
You don't get to decide that, Mr. Chairman. You don't get to decide who talked
It's my
enough.
time and I'm not yielding.
Okay, then I have recognition.
I'll yield back. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. So I haven't talked enough, apparently. First of all, Mr. Chairman, this notion that the claim you just made that because you've concluded the amendment changes the purpose of the bill as a basis for ruling it not germane is just wrong. There's no such test.
Just briefly, I mean, the chairman's comments that we were, scared of that language. I mean, the amendment I offered maintained all of that language. In fact, you guys blocked or voted down, I think, 4 amendments that maintain the same language. So that's clearly wrong.
Well, but your amendment did other things that were beyond the scope as well.
No.
And look, asked and answered.
I'm not raising that again. That's clearly not correct. But, I just wanted to point out that the statement you made about we're scared of it, no. It was in the language that you blocked us from offering to vote on.
Thank you, Mr. Ivey. Excellent point.
Okay,
I reclaim my time.
Well, you gotta
I
go
now
back
have an
and then-
amendment, Mr. Chairman, which is at the desk.
Procedurally, though, yield back and then I'll recognize you for the amendment purpose.
Okay, I yield back.
All right.
This effort to have all Democratic amendments declared not germane because you've already accepted the language in the Swalwell amendment. This simply adds language that says, whereas gun violence continues to be the leading cause of line of duty deaths, 64 law enforcement officers were shot and killed while serving their communities. Gun violence continues to pose a serious threat to law enforcement, children, families in our communities. And whereas the law enforcement deaths by gun violence reflect a 21% increase over historical average of firearms-related deaths between 2010 and 2020. And just to avoid any concern, we omit reference to state police agencies and just refer to local police agencies. And in the final paragraph, again, say local police officers. So I think we finally fit through the eye of the needle. It's all about local law enforcement, language you've already accepted with respect to the Swalwell Amendment. So I look forward to not only a ruling that it's germane, but also your support. And I yield back.
Mr.
Gentleman
Chairman, I
yields
insist on
back.
my point of order.
Gentleman, assistance, point of order. You're
The,
recognized.
the underlying resolution, the underlying bill is to praise police and to condemn the effort to defund the police. It is not about January 6th. It is not
This is not about January 6th.
It is not about strategies to address gun violence. It is about praising the police.
As we step back from the heated exchange between Representatives Johnson and Nadler, it's clear that this confrontation is more than a momentary clash. It's a vivid illustration of the deep-seated ideological divisions that permeate the United States Congress. Today's debate brings to the forefront key issues that define American politics: the role of law enforcement, the complexities of gun control, and the fundamental principles of governance. Johnson's impassioned arguments and Nadler's firm rebuttals are emblematic of the broader political battles that shape our nation's policies and future. This incident, charged with emotion and conviction, mirrors the current state of political discourse in Congress. A landscape marked by polarized viewpoints and intense debates. It serves as a microcosm of the larger, often contentious dialogue that is central to the American democratic process. Show a montage of various congressional debates, emphasizing the diversity of opinions and intensity of discussions. As we reflect on today's events, we're compelled to ponder: how do such moments of confrontation and passion contribute to the shaping of our nation's policies? Are they merely flashes of discord, or do they signify a deeper need for a more collaborative and understanding approach to governance? In a nation as diverse and complex as the United States, the path to consensus is seldom straightforward, yet it's in these moments of fervent debate that the true spirit of democracy is tested and revealed. As we continue to navigate these turbulent political waters, one question remains: how can we bridge these divides to create a more unified and prosperous future for all?